This section of the video might be probably the most controversial. So one of the common themes you're going to hear me use throughout all of the sections of this, big long video project is that there isn't necessarily a one right way to do things. I'm trying to give you my best advice on things that I know that work, but it doesn't mean there's the best way. This section, though, is the opposite of that. This is about what not to do. And so there are just a few things that I have gathered in my own experience, in the experience of others that have taught me a lot, and these are things you absolutely do not want to do. And I gotta be honest, without question, there shouldn't be an argument on these, there shouldn't be a question on these, because years of experience has proven to me that doing these things is just stupid. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your team's time, and in some cases, they are unsafe. So where do these come from? In some cases, I'm not sure. In others, these are throwbacks to earlier times in show skiing. Things that were done in the past, 10 years ago, 15, 25 years ago, and some teams have not modernized and have not changed with the times, especially as technology has changed. So these are absolutely things you don't want to do, and these are things that I commonly see when visiting other teams, whether it's a team that I'm going to ski with myself, or have asked myself or some close friends of mine to come in and help them out and coach them a little bit. And it's one of those things when we arrive at a team and they say, hey, can you look at how we're hooking things up to the boat? Or can you look at how we're rigging things? That's where it usually comes in. And, it's hard to just be blunt. And so kind of in the back of my mind, I'm kind of doing a smile and wave because I know these are some things that they should not be doing. So here's my absolute best advice that I can give you. For each of these items, you can dive into more detail in individual videos. So when we talk about rigging, like trunks and leaders, there's videos dedicated to that. They'll be longer than what I'm about to explain in this section. So these next couple ideas are my absolutes. You definitely do not want to do these. Carabiners. Essential to hooking up all of your ropes to trunk lines or to a boat harness or even sometimes directly to the boat itself. So carabiners are a big safety issue, and I see some really common mistakes. So let's start with the first one. Number one, large carabiners. Sometimes I walk onto teams and there are carabiners that are, this long. They are 10, 12, 14 inches long. And the methodology was I'm going to go and get the biggest, heaviest duty carabiner that I can. Don't do that. Couple reasons. The big carabiners, when they start pulling out and the boat starts to accelerate, they go like this and they waffle through the water. And that is yanking in a way that you don't want on the skier's ropes behind the boat. You don't need a carabiner that big to get strength. If you're worried about strength, go and find a carabiner that is made of heat-treated steel. If you don't need as much strength, go even smaller and lighter with aluminum carabiners. But again, make sure that they're made for this purpose and are of high strength. Another common issue with carabiners is ones where people go down to their local Home Depot or a Lowe's or hardware store and they just buy the highest rated thing that they can there. Those carabiners are not made for what we do in show skiing. You need carabiners that are made for things like high mountain rescue environments. We're talking extreme. These carabiners, like the one I have in my hand, are heat-treated steel, 17, 18,000 pounds of braking strength in this little thing, and it's, 4.5 inches long. That's the kind of thing that you want. Spend the money, get high quality ones, watch the carabiners video, it'll give you more information on what you need to do. Don't go buy one from your local hardware store, and don't buy the giant carabiners. They're actually weaker than ones like this. Trunk lines and towboat harnesses. So trunk lines, that line that takes many individual ski ropes and channels it down to one single line going towards the boat. Or the boat tow harnesses. On a triple rig, you're talking about the V harness coming out between the engines, or in a twin rig, the single line harness coming out directly from in between the engines. Make them out of the right material. Do not use semi-toe straps anymore. This is a throwback to things that used to be done a different way in show skiing because we really didn't have a better material back then, and we used toe straps or tie-down straps for this. These have major issues. First of all, they soak up water like a sponge. They become very waterlogged and they become very heavy. At the same time, they're also stretchy, which is what we don't want in a trunk line or a boat harness. And they tend to stretch and then pull back like a rubber band. Don't do that. Find and spend the money on good quality material. If it's close up, a boat harness, you're going to get probably recommended some heavy duty plasma line. If it's a trunk line, you're going to get some variation of AM steel or plasma, depending on how much you want to spend. Again, there's a separate video that talks about this in detail. Let's talk trunks and leaders and the right material. And again, there's a whole nother video dedicated to this, so please check that out. This, again, is a throwback to older ways of doing things, but I still find on occasion I run across a team still doing this. They go and grab poly-based rope for their trunk lines up near the boat or their leaders. And I don't even have an example anymore. So this is just regular poly rope that we use for individual ski ropes, not for trunk lines and leaders up near the boat kind of thing. This is still made. You can still buy it in really thick. I mean thick. This is thin stuff. This is 1/4 inch. But they still make it in 3/4 inch diameter, 1 inch, even 1 1/4 inch diameter, and teams on occasion are still using it. Don't do that. That stuff is extremely stretchy. It is prone to fraying. It frays very, very easily. And I understand it can be cheaper than, say, something like AM steel or plasma line. But again, it's just got tons of drawbacks to it. Because it's thick, it tends to weigh down in the water, stuff like that, and it doesn't have near the breaking strength that AM steel and plasma do. So don't use poly P or poly E material for your trunks or leaders. All right, occasionally maybe a leader, but never for a trunk line. All right, make sure you buy high quality synthetic rope for that. Skier main lines, the longest part of your water ski rope, each of your individual water ski ropes. Good idea, do not use poly P. And I understand it's not far off from what we call poly E. Poly P or polypropylene rope is made to be stretchy. It's really made, ideally, for 3-event. So 3-event uses a lot of poly P in the things that they do. We don't want to use it for show skiing. So it's very stretchy. It's got a lot of rubber bandy effect to it. Tends to snap back. For bases coming off with weight on their shoulders, say off of a dock on a shoulder start, that means they're going to feel a slow pull and get dogged back, and then they're going to get a snap, which tends to pull them forward. Not something we want to happen. So this is an example. I just have a small piece, here with me right now. This is poly P. It is to the touch, obviously, can't do that in video, but to the touch, it's very, very soft, and it is really stretchy, and the stretch never comes out of it. Main line should be made from some type of a polyethylene product, often abbreviated poly E. And there's a bunch out there. Watch the video on it. There's a long discussion on it. But you want some kind of a poly E product for your main lines, not poly P. Let's talk braids for a moment. So when you're making braids, and these could be for pyramids, they could be a swivel braid, could potentially be a braid, for, say, an ATB rope to pull up and be able to do cut unders and stuff like that if it's not, the stagger's not long enough, or a jump rope or something like that. So there is some debate on this one. This isn't necessarily a hard and fast not to do, but it's kind of a caution. So some teams try to center on polyethylene or tack line, as we call it, show ski tack, which is great for main lines. It's a lot less stretchy. It tends to, once it's stretched, it stays stretched, but it's not so good for braids. Couple reasons why. This is actually a piece of show ski tack that I have in my hand, and it is a polyethylene or poly E based product. It tends to be very stiff to the touch. It also tends to have a waxy-like coating on it. It's really bad when it's brand new. Now, this is a used piece, and that coating does come off somewhat over time, but some of it remains, and it makes the rope feel kind of oily when it's wet. When I'm sitting here on a couch, that's no big deal. When I'm a climber on a pyramid, that waxy, slippery feeling is a huge problem. So this is one where we actually do jump back typically, and we use the older style rope. We use that poly P or polypropylene product because it's softer for the climber's hands, which typically be younger, younger could be kids too. It will squish in their hand a little bit easier. It's typically easier to braid as well, and it usually does not have that waxy coating on it. Polyethylene gets some additives put in it in the manufacturing process, and those additives give it that waxy feel and make sure it doesn't have that great of a grip. So suggestion for braids, go back to the older style poly P rope for that. All right, my last do not do this one is kind of more of a big pet peeve. Ropes as a whole within ski shows don't get a lot of attention. And one of the most critical pieces of rope on any show anywhere are the safety release lines on your quick releases, on your pins. How many times, or I should say this, how many times have you, watching this video, gone and checked those safety release lines for fraying and wear and tear? Almost every team I go on, they're often neglected. Those ropes tend to often be out in the environment throughout the summer months and everything, getting beat on with sun. A lot of times the covers don't protect those. They go around the pylon. They don't go over the top. So they're getting lots of sun on them, lots of weather wear and tear on them. And of course, there's some of the ropes that you hang or you hold on to and pull the hardest of any ropes used in that show, because when you're going and pulling that, you're yanking really hard, and that tiny little loop that is through the metal part of the release rubs in there a lot, and it can fray. And so one of my biggest pet peeves is nobody checks on these darn things. If your team does, kudos, and thank whoever that person is that does this. At least once a year, at the start of each season, those should be gone through really well. And if there's any sign of fraying, anything, cut it off and make a new one. It's one of the simplest ropes to make. You can use any poly E rope through those to do it, so it's cheap. It's not like you're buying some special material. It's super cheap to make that new pull line for that release. Please check those. It's disheartening to show up at a team to try to help them, and I jump into a boat to pull pin for them quick to help with something, and literally have to stop what we're doing because I look at the state of those and I go, boy, one or two more hard yanks and that rope's going to tear free. And you never can tell when it's going to happen. So check for frays, replace them if they look at all worn. Thank you.